I don't really know. Stop running the microphone like that.
Sorry.
It's just muscle memory's taking over. You were just there like that. What do you think?
Hi and welcome to the first instalment of the Field, Food and Country.
Mate, you look like you're introducing a porno.
Da 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 da.
All right,
there.
Johnny Bravo.
Sold.
Right.
I'd watch that.
Well,
So good. He had hair. Hello, welcome to the Field, Food and Country Podcast. This is the first episode. My name's Lance, this is Hugo, and this is Jack. We are three friends, amigos, stalkers, hunters, whatever you want to call us, who just love a good chat and a good laugh, and we're going to bring it into a space where everyone can share that.
yeah.
I like the three amigos.
Yeah.
We
Yeah.
should definitely use that a bit more often.
We should have like nicknames.
Yeah.
Nice ones or
Yeah.
nice nicknames or
Well,
just
I don't
nicknames?
know.
Yeah. Maybe we can let the jolly public decide our nicknames.
Yeah.
Just don't take your hat off.
Yeah, keep that hat on.
That's
otherwise you
glutton
might
for
get
punishment, that
you
is.
don't
There's
like.
going to be some awful comments on there. Luckily, none about my hairline yet because my hat's on.
Yeah, well,
Come on, Lance, what have you been up to this week? Your pheasant season's come to an end. Our jolly keeper here, where have you been?
Well, I've just come back from South Africa, which was amazing. Had a hunting trip out there with a new friend and some of his fellow friends. Really good, amazing experience. That's going to be coming out on Field, Food and Country soon, so I won't say too much about that. But yeah, just end of the season. To be honest, it was a really long one. I don't know whether it's from getting old or it was particularly hard.
probably is, yeah.
Probably is.
Definitely, I think it is as well.
Long and hard, was it?
Yeah.
It was long and hard, really hard. And I'm just glad I'm out the other end.
He's still talking about the trip here. Or?
Yeah, that's right. No, it was a good season, really, really good season, really successful season. It was a hard year, loads and loads of natural food, as you two will know from stalking. Like the pheasants just pulled everywhere, really hard to get in. They didn't. I mean, our food bill was really low this year, way down on what it should have been. But we did well. They flew well. We did all our days and we got to the end. So yeah, now just a bit of chill really. Really burnt out this year. So I haven't done a lot, if I'm honest. The last couple of weeks, Africa for a week, chilled with Ellie and the kids, and yeah, we've got family holiday to Mexico in another week, and then we'll sort of get to it. Really get back to prep for the new season.
Well, you'll find space for one more holiday before then, won't you?
Yeah, two actually.
Yeah.
We'll go to. Yeah, I've gone from taking none to probably taking the last 10 years worth in the last 2 years. But no, you know, I've learned that I need a break. I do, and you know, I'm obsessed with my job, can't put it down, and there's consequences of that, and that is like burnout. I just need a break. I've had it. I'm already feeling better. I feel good in myself. It's good to like just laughing with you. It's good. You know, I need a break. I've had one, and yeah, hopefully get back to it soon.
Having been stood on quite a few days with you guys this year, getting towards the end, you could tell that it was starting to take its toll on everybody. Mm-hmm. You were doing a hell of a lot of days towards the end of the season, trying to push them in. But to be fair, they went really, really well. I think you guys have got to be happy about how it's gone.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, there was drives that really performed this year, like out of their skin. That weren't so good last year, and there was drives that were phenomenal last year that were terrible this year. It was a really, really odd season, really hard to predict. You know, one of our weakest drives happened to be one of our fullest this year. Slaughterhouse, not one of my favourite drives at all.
That was mega though.
It was
that
so
was
good.
Yeah, the partridge this year as well, the whole
were
new element.
so good, and that for me was probably a huge percent of that sort of burnout. Was, you know, that was really on my shoulders. I mean, Rory, the manager owner of Montreal Sporting, he really backed me. You know, it was a lot of money went into that, and I really put my hand up and took the responsibility for it. And there was a time where I worried and thought, you know, have I got this right? You know, it's a big decision. It doesn't matter how old you are, you're only judged, or how many seasons you've been doing it, you're only judged off your previous season or previous shoot day or whatever. So we spent a lot of time with them at night, keep the foxes off, and built a huge fence, and it paid off. We shot a really big percent. One drive wasn't that great, if I'm honest. Strawberry Hill, one of my favourite pheasant drives, that didn't really go. Sort of followed the contours. Couldn't really get them to get up and over any sort of height. But you know, we'll work on it. We'll move forward and and hopefully, you know, improve it for next year.
You know, the only problem with Slaughterhouse, that drive, for anyone that doesn't know, so there's quite a long, really, really pretty valley that you're walking down, and it's getting towards December, January, and Lance is on the walkie-talkie saying, quiet as you can, and you've got all these people here, first driver of the day, second driver of the day, they're all very merry, and you've got to go up to them, can you just shut up, please?
Just keep it down,
talking,
please.
I was saying that in my speech in the morning, it's like, the quieter you are, the more you'll shoot. And I remember sort of getting into the back of that drive, and I knew whether it was a loud team or a quiet team, because I remember one day in particular, I stood at the back of the maze, and it looked like the drive was being driven at me. And I'm just stood there thinking, this
Fantastic.
Yeah, that could be me down in the valley, just be like,
yeah. And at that point, Jackson is radio like,
just turn it down.
nothing to see
Nothing
here.
to see.
Well, it's herding cats generally when you're trying to look after guns.
Yeah, really difficult.
But for anyone who would have just walked onto that shoot this year, they wouldn't have known that was your first year doing partridge, because they went mega.
They really
and you were there with your little whistle.
That I like that. That was so. My first real underkeeper's job was at Stutton Hall in Suffolk, and that was where that came from, that whistle. So typical Suffolk, flat ground, hedges. You know, you don't know those partridges come until they burst over the top of that hedge. It's exciting. And that introduction of that whistle, Adam, really good friend of mine who was the underkeeper there before me and is still a very good friend now, he's on the Isle of Wight, he blows that whistle, and it's just a like to-do-to-do-to-do, where you hear that as a gun, you know. And I say it in the mornings, in the morning brief, when you hear a whistle, look up, the valleys are tight at Montreal. The streamed valleys that we've had cut out, you know, those partridge are over those valleys in a flick of an eye, you know. So when they hear that whistle, it just gets that
Just the heart
adrenaline.
going.
Yeah, it's great. I hosted, I don't know, half a dozen or so days this year where I needed to, and that for me was really fun. You know, I don't like the guns to be stood on peg too long before anything happens, but I think on a partridge drive, to have a bit of a longer wait and to hear that whistle, it really builds the suspense. So yeah, it was good. And what about you? You're a dad?
New dad, yep. 6 weeks
Here
in,
we go.
which is
Here we go.
it's exciting, but the sleepless nights are taking a toll a little bit. But obviously it's getting quieter now with work, sort of game dealing. So just obviously the birds are all finished, so concentrating on the deer, trying to get out and shoot as many as we can before the end of the season, which is good. You know, so it's sort of balancing that, being at home with the wife and the new one, little one, and also getting out there and shooting them. There's still quite a few to get onto. So, but I'm sure you boys are going to give me a hand with that as well.
Yeah, just to give people an idea. So I'm head keeper at the Montreal estate. Hugo is the game dealer for the estate, so he takes all our pheasants and the majority of our deer. And Jack recently, sort of in the last year and a half, has been helping to stalk as well. So we've now got Tommy, one of my new underkeepers. He's shooting a lot of deer, but it's mainly been us, hasn't it, really? Yeah. So it's nice. Like, yeah, we've built a rapport between each other, and we work well, and we set a real high target this year of 200 head.
Yeah. It's all fallow. Mostly there's a few row. The row numbers are starting to get back up again now.
Tell you what, there's a lot of row knocking around.
At Spring Hill, Tommy
Hill.
sent me a video. I think there was 11 on there. Yeah. So when I came when I came to Montreal, there was very few row. Yeah. And I was like, don't.
Well,
shoot
we've left
row.
them alone, haven't we? We haven't tried anything.
And now they're, and which, do you know, I think that's a really good sign that they were getting on top of the fallow, because whether people know or not, like row and fallow don't really look, or row don't like fallow, and vice versa.
To push row off.
Yeah.
Do you remember one of the first mornings I came out with you? We were over at Spring Hill, and I've never seen it before, but some fallow does chased out that roebuck.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I've never actually seen them chase it.
That was in the row. I think the row were rutting, weren't they? Am I right?
Yeah, it was. Yeah.
Yeah, but the fallow didn't like he was there at all, did they?
No. I know that they didn't get on, but I've never seen them actually chase it before. But that was.
Yeah. They will, and I think, but that's definitely something. I mean, we've been trying pretty hard since you started. So I took on the game dealing side of Montreal. When you arrived, you sort of got hold of me, and we sort of started doing the deer control together from there, didn't we? And we've done pretty well the last 3 years doing it, and we can definitely see areas where we've concentrated that's brought them down. But I mean, fallow, as it's been in news a lot recently as well, with the changes coming up to licensing, they're difficult. There's a large amount of fallow, especially around us in Kent, and they're a big problem, especially on the estate. You know, forestry, the game covers, the arable. You know, so we are having to get on top of them. But they're tricky buggers. They are. You know, especially this time of year. You know, you think brilliant, the shooting season's over. We can get over the whole estate now, where you can really hit them hard, but Problem is the does all group up, then, and they are just so aware. You're stalking in, you sort of, you
they're
kind
not
of...
stupid, are
They're
they?
not
People
stupid. They
think that
know
they're
you're there,
stupid.
and there's always one looking, isn't there? And you sort of, you spend half an hour watching the wind, and you get one bloody doe look, you're going to go, oh, hello.
Ruff.
Yeah,
And then they just go.
Yeah.
And you watch them, they don't even necessarily run, they just slowly meander out of the way, and they're gone. And it's just
it makes me
difficult.
laugh when you get to this time of year and you see the big groups, and especially if you follow any of the Facebook pages, someone will put up a photo of probably like 100 fallow in a field, and you get all the people below just being like, I could get hold of them. You're gonna have one shot, and that's it. And then you've got all of those deer. You'll just see 100 of them.
But even so, you then got to try and get that shot, because if you've got a group of deer like this, you've got
100 pairs of eyes looking at you.
But also the risk of hitting the deer behind as well.
And when you've got foreheads like me and Lance, there's a lot of light bouncing off them, isn't there?
I very rarely don't have a hat on. So
Yeah, that's a smart move.
Cheers. But it's interesting that when we started, like, you think of where the big herds were at Montreal, we've whittled them away now down to very few in those areas. We concentrated on the areas that were obviously had or held the most head of deer, and from the game sort of point of view, in feed, maize damage, on the drills, you can really see the effect that's had, in those areas. It's working. The chestnut coppices now, the ones that were absolutely demolished, I mean, whether they'll be any good or not, but they're healing. You can see they're not.
Yeah, definitely. Well, we remember we had at the beginning of the season as well, when you started getting the hoppers out, we thought we'd have a bit of a session just sort of counting at what areas where the hops were being banged over each night, and the sort of wastage you thought you were getting. And actually, again, like you say, in those areas where we've been concentrating, that had really reduced. But they're a menace. They're an absolute menace. But I think, again, and as I say, it's been in the news a lot the last couple of weeks about these changes coming through in the licensing. And it's I think deer need to be controlled. But it's an interesting one. Night shooting, will it help? It will, I think, yes. But you've still got to make sure that you can get those deer. One, get them out of the location. The biggest problem I tend to have, especially this time of year, is that actually it's extracting these animals. Especially you shooting these deer at night, you're getting them out. It's the ground's very wet. If you suddenly, it's possible at night, you might be able to shoot 5 in one go. Great, but you then got to get those things out of the bit of ground where you are. So it's extraction's one of them, I think. It's an interesting. Deer are a very interesting topic at the moment.
They are, and I think when you start talking about night shooting, I think everybody who stalks has these two little people on either shoulder. You've got the sportsman in you. I know I definitely have, and you two probably are the same. You've got the sportsman in you that almost thinks they don't deserve to be shot at night, really,
definitely,
because they are such pretty animals, aren't they?
Reduce them to vermin sort of status,
exactly,
which they don't. They aren't.
Exactly, and I think when you start shooting them at night like rabbits, which are classed as vermin by a lot of people, I think you do run the risk of reducing them to that level. But then on your other shoulder, you've almost got the devil. Then you've got the angel saying that they're a sportsman, you're a sportsman, and you don't want to shoot them at night. You've then got the devil who's you've got a target to hit.
Absolutely.
And at the end of the day, when you look at each fallow deer can roughly eat the same as a sheep.
Yeah.
They say, don't they? It's 4 or 5 kilos of green matter a day.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
Crazy amount of damage.
You can't have those numbers just on a field and expect to get any type of return.
And to things like in a state like Montreal, it's quite close to Seven Oaks. So there's a lot of footpaths, a lot of people walking on it. You've obviously got the pheasant shoot through the season, a lot of that going on. Actually, and these deer are becoming. We've all been there. You're sitting in your high seat. You're like, it's perfect light. Just gets too dark to see with the dayscape, and then what do you see? You walk out there with a nice little shadow, and you saw him coming out.
Yeah. I think
that's the problem.
I'd like to know, because we all stalk for different reasons. I think, Jack, would it be fair to say that you're a recreational stalker?
I think that would be fair, Lance, yes.
Whereas
I do it for the love of it, Lance.
Yeah,
and also to give you a lie in. And also when you're on another holiday, someone's got to.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah. So you obviously do it for
work,
recreational and for work. Whereas
absolutely.
I do it and 100% for work. Like, I cannot, and I'm being really honest, I can't imagine a time at the moment where I would go fallow stalking for joy.
Yeah.
It's been completely ruined for me. Like, I can still, I understand, and I'd like to go out and stalk a roe on a nice summer's morning or whatever. There's lots of romance in different animals for me still, but fallow have just. So I think it'd be interesting to get your view, Jack, on what you think these new laws are going to mean for you as a recreational stalker. Like, what are the consequences of people going out and being able to shoot 6 or 7 out of a 10 deer herd? Or I think personally it's going to it's going to be a big deal. But what?
You ask an interesting question, because I've got sort of two hats on it. I come at from two different approaches, because one, I'm land agent, so I see farmers' returns, yields, that sort of thing, and I know the damage that they do. So from that side of things, I can completely get it. And I know people that have shot them at night before and seen real comeback from it. Like the yields have gone up, the damage has dipped. But I think recreational stalking, I think people in the southeast, especially Kent and East Sussex, a little bit spoilt.
Yeah,
because I grew up as a recreational stalker, stalking in Scotland and commercial forestry, where you would probably go out 5 or 6 times, and if you saw a roebuck, it would be a good stalk.
Yeah.
As a recreational stalker, I think a lot of people will be thinking they're going to shoot them at night, they're going to be reducing the numbers heavily, my chances are going to go down. I think in the southeast, in Kent and East Sussex, not so much. I think if you're doing it recreationally, you've still got a pretty good shot because of the sheer volume of deer. Yeah. I think the only thing that it is going to change is that you're probably going to see a lot less of the 1s and 2s.
Yeah.
Because especially early season, you get the prickets that are a little bit silly, and you might catch the odd one coming down the side of a wood or something like that. As a recreational stalker, they're probably the ones that you're going to have a better chance of shooting.
Absolutely, and those are sort of the enjoyable ones. Actually, stalking a herd. When I'm stalking. Well, either way, when I'm trying to shoot numbers or just maybe going out for 1 or 2, exactly that. I like when you're pitting your wits against one animal. It's sort of one-on-one type thing, and those are the enjoyable stalks. When you're sort of got a big herd that you're trying to get into, yeah, fine. But I agree with you. Those are the ones I enjoy. But of course, they have done this. The night shooting, they did do it in Scotland, didn't they? So it's obviously already legal. They're doing it with the bucks.
Yeah,
out there, the stags out there.
But interestingly, there's quite a lot of comeback from that. So I see a lot of people that say, yes, there's no close season on male deer, but we're still going to adhere to the old seasons just out of principle.
Yeah, and I agree. I mean, one of the past they've said about it exactly that. No close season on the bucks or the males. And I don't really again agree with that, especially like with fallow. I don't sort of see I don't think that's necessarily the problem. I don't think the males are the problem, especially as a lot of stalkers are probably going to shoot males over females because they're going for the trophy side of things. They want the headgear on the wall. So I think the does, which obviously you've got to have the close season for does because you've got the dependent fawns. But yeah, it's tricky. I don't necessarily, again, the night shooting maybe on a case-by-case basis, which I know is that's what they're getting away from because that's how it went initially. You'd have to put in. It's very difficult. It's difficult.
I think that would be a good place to go, is what's actually changed then. From my understanding, and chime in, the old system of getting night licenses to shoot is you had to apply on a case-by-case basis.
Yeah, but I think it was difficult. You really had to show that you tried every other sort of thing to, so
we had a go, and
bangers, you tried.
We got 3/4 of the way through, and the boss was like,
it's just too much. It's difficult.
That was under the Deer Act, wasn't it? That you had to apply because you had to demonstrate that there was agricultural, forestry, or I think was a danger because too many collisions with cars or something like that. You had to demonstrate that there was a need, and that you've tried other things. So did you say that you tried with bangers and
everything? And I had monumental amounts of evidence to prove that these deer were doing massive amounts of damage, like yields. Our trees, some of our chestnut coppices are absolutely destroyed, and even still, it was impossible. It wasn't impossible, obviously, because I'm sure, but it was too difficult to bother with in the end. And I think that's the main problem. Is that for me, this is all the wrong way. Don't get me wrong. More than anyone, I want to see the fallow controlled. They cause me so much grief as a gamekeeper and for the conservation of Montreal that, on one hand, I'm all for it.
Your little devil on your shoulder is a lot louder than the other ones.
I don't. The 100%. Angel on my fallow shoulder's gone. The devil. Let's get these down.
Don't worry, we can bring these down.
However, you've got holes in the net.
Yeah, but having a herd of fallow ploughing through your cover crop through a drive it's a nightmare.
But it gives him something to blame when the drive doesn't go well.
Absolutely. Bloody.
It's normally the weather. But what's happened is there's holes in the net. So we've done a fantastic job at Montreal. Yeah. Now I won't name names, but a chap that I was talking to the other day, it was a few months ago, who's got the stalking rights. I wouldn't give him the status of a stalker because he's definitely not. But he said to me, Lance, you know the problem with Montreal is, he said, the way to manage the deer is to shoot the biggest bucks you can first. Now, where this guy got this from, I just do not know. But it made me think, like, these are the sort of people that are managing the deer around us. Like, that's where the problem is. It's in farms that don't have stalkers or have plonkers like that. And they're really giving, like, us, like, stalkers and gamekeepers and a bad name.
Yeah,
because
but I think a lot of it as well, to be honest, the reason the population's been able to, I mean, I definitely saw a big explosion over COVID where you didn't have, obviously, a lot of the market wasn't there for them because the restaurants were closed, even though you could get out and shoot them. There wasn't the market to get rid of them. You know, they were also able to move a lot. So where I am, I live about 25 minutes from Montreal, but actually there's the A21 that runs between, so where there's a lot of deer and where I am. But since COVID, they really have migrated. We're now seeing reasonable numbers of deer around me, and you might see the odd one over the years, but not really. And that's definitely changed. But I think so much of the problem is that you've got stalkers, and I had this actually when I sort of started trying to get into stalking, is that you've got individual stalkers, might be in their 60s, 70s, or literally, or 50s, 60s, 70s. They've managed to amass large areas of stalking, but they're not shooting the numbers. They won't let anyone else come on. No, it's my land, mine.
It's all closed book.
It's all closed book. So young people can't get into it. It's very difficult. And they don't really want to like take people out because they might steal my land. But also, I've seen this as well. People they'll hit the bucks very hard through August, September. Once the does start coming in, the weather tends to have changed. The ground gets soft. You can't drive your truck up to where you've shot your deer. Mm-hmm. And so they stop. They haven't, and they aren't able to extract the deer because a deer it's a big buck or actually a big doe. You're slinging the deer. We're all relatively capable of chucking that on our shoulders, but actually, a lot of people aren't. And you've also then got other bits of land, and you see it where fallow. They're pretty clever animals. You'll see a bit of ground, and it'll be neighbouring. Next week got a bit in the centre of Montreal. There's a big herd right in. There's a bit of ground that they don't own. Bit of pasture, and they just a big herd of stuff that sits right in the middle of it
every day,
and you can't shoot them.
And this time of year they congregate. Which is why I think.
But that's the problem because you have a lot of people who just they'll have people coming out of town. They buy up a bit of ground. Mm-hmm. They won't allow the deer to be shot. Oh, it looks lovely. That's great, but it's big. It's just creating a problem, and actually due to that. It's just detrimental across the board. It's detrimental for the animals. It's detrimental for the flora and fauna. It's just so compounded. So I think there are a lot of other. I think just allowing us to shoot them at night, and be able to shoot bucks all year round. That's not on its own going to solve the problem because there's so much. And I think there is a bit in there though where. If you've got a bit of ground and you're not managing it, I think you can be sort of almost a bit like rabbits, where it was the landowner's legal requirement to maintain them.
Is that right?
I think I did see a bit in there where, do correct me if I'm wrong, but I think that is a very important point. That's almost more important, I'd say, than allowing night shooting. You've got to basically, if someone has got a bit of ground, they're not allowing the deer to be controlled, and they need to be held accountable for that. And then, I don't know how that would, but that for me is there's a lot of other puzzle pieces, not just. Fine. You give us the ability to go and shoot deer at night. We're going to be able to go out but we're doing a job properly. But it's not going to stop all the deer on the next door field being shot because they'll stand over there and we can't shoot them.
There's two things for me, and I completely agree with what you said. The two things for me that I think are because we've sort of morphed into the old night license system as to why deer have got so prevalent now. And I think two things. Firstly, I completely agree. I think some stalkers are our own worst enemy. Because if you took one of your old boy stalkers that we all know are there, that shoot maybe a handful of deer a year, if you took them into a pub and spoke to someone who didn't shoot, they would be saying, we need more deer shot, the numbers are unreal, they need to do this, and they'd be saying all the right things. Someone maybe says, how about I lend a hand, or they know them, they'll be, no. You can't come on my ground.
And I think they're protecting in a lot of cases their lack of knowledge, because for me, the youngsters that are coming through, are keen, absolute keenness. Yeah. They're doing their DSC ones, DSC twos. They're
which I think are very important. I know that DSC 1 and 2 get a lot of stick from people. Actually, we've all done it, and actually, I think a lot of it I knew already. But there's a lot of people on my course who are doing it to try and get into deer stalking, and it's so informative.
And I think
that's so important.
The first thing that I think people should do, other than booking a few stalks, I think that people should go and do your DSC1 because you
100%.
you learn a hell of a lot.
Yeah, but it's something that I was aware of, and I've taken people out myself where I've guided them, and actually why people are given firearms on their tickets without maybe having to do a 1 or 2 day course on safety and firearms handling. And I've watched, because it's all very good in a nice, calm environment, but once you're in the field and you got that and you're stalking into that buck or whatever it might be, the adrenaline's going. I've had a shotgun or a rifle in my hand since I was very young. I've been brought up with it. I used to follow my dad around with an unloaded gun, and it was safety, drilled into me. So I know where the tip of that rifle is at all times. But there's still, I've had times over the years where I've had heart-stopping moments where things have, could have gone a lot worse. Thank God they didn't. But safety is so, and understanding and knowing when to, if your heart's going, step back from something.
And knowing when not to shoot.
Knowing when not to shoot. Knowing, understand the backdrop. There's so much, and so I guess a lot of it as well. It's making sure that people who are coming through to do this are trained and know how to handle how to shoot the deer and then handle that carcass once they've shot it. Because yes, of course, a clean shot is very, very important. You don't want any suffering from the animal, but it's knowing how to deal with that animal once it. And the stuff that I've seen, the gralix that I've seen, and it's not necessary.
And that's just us two.
Yeah, well, exactly, absolutely. Complete car coaches, but it's not necessary. It's not. If you should be able to learn how to grallic a deer properly, So there's a guy running a company, Deer Tray Covers. We met him at the game fair, and he's got
good gear, aren't they?
Yeah, really great gear, and it's a simple, basically it's a winch that it just breaks down, clicks on, just slips over your tow bar. You can grallic in the field. If you this is when you can drive up to them, or you can drag to that, and it just allows you to get the animal out of the ground, or off the ground, and just cleanly grallic it. And I think so much it's just respect the animal. Once you've got it on the date, respect it. So, and that's what I see. It's just, as a game dealer as well, when people sort of try and bring stuff into you, and you're just like, what have you done to this? I can't use half this animal.
You've taught me an awful lot on grallicking. Like, I got taught, how to grallic when I was 16 at college, and I grallicked that way for a very long time. And it's, there's no, I suppose there is a wrong and a right, but there's a very grey area in between where everybody does things a little differently. And I was doing it, not a very good way. Like it was acceptable and far, very, good enough for the game dealers. But having met you and learnt and Jack and we all had little ways that we do things,
little tricks that we've all picked up, so it makes it easier as well. So going back to the sort of the night shooting, I guess again maybe from my point of view, when I'm from a game dealing perspective, I've got orders to fill, so I know I might have 10 deer that I need to go out with that week, because with game dealing stuff that I do, most of it is stuff that I do it all myself. So from my point of view, obviously being able to put a thermal on my rifle, head out and shoot 10 deer in one sitting, get them done and back, okay, fine, that's great, but I've got that market. I'm shooting deer almost to order. So maybe that's a way of looking at it. Something that I thought about actually before this came out was a way that, if Lance, you're a gamekeeper, you need to control your fallow, and you can say, well, I've got my game dealer that's going to take him, whether it's to Ben Rigby or whether it's to me or whoever it might be, so I can get rid of, I've got a reason I need to shoot these deer. I'm a game dealer, I'm shooting them effectively for orders. So so whether it should be that you put in for that license, and it's much easier, you sort of say, right, this is what I'm doing, I need it for X, and so that you can prove that you've got experience, which I think that's part of it as well, is making sure that people are properly trained, properly experienced, but just proving that you know what you're doing. I've got a reason for doing this, whether it's the control of the land control, land management, or gamekeeper meat management, whatever it might be. But that brings into it, which is another part of it as well, is obviously making sure that venison's eaten more widely, and I know a lot of people sort of say, oh, it's so expensive, it's this, and it's a free meat out there, so why is it so expensive? Okay, well, it is free, but okay, if I think selling a deer carcass to the game dealer now, head shot, neck shot, a clean carcass is about £2 a kilo. Okay, fine, so that's the first cost for the game dealer. There's then collection, there's storage, there's a lot of things that go into that, with the cost of electrics, with you're running chillers, you're running freezers.
I think that would be really interesting to get a bit more of an idea of, actually, because from a stalker's point of view, we see the game that game dealer is only giving me £1.50 a kilo or something like that. But if we can just get back to what's changed, because we want to come back to that.
Hugo drinking red wine and beef on his minimal salary.
Yes, exactly.
That red wine's not going to buy itself, is
no,
it?
precisely.
There he is in his garden.
Hello. He drives a Lamborghini, by the way, everybody.
Exactly.
Game dealers earning so
Hard
much
life,
money.
Yeah,
hard
exactly. Oh, God,
You
God.
can't speak. You're off to Mexico. So
Yeah, exactly.
I'm the only one putting a graft in, I think. Right. So what's changed about that before we come back to game dealers earning lots of money is what's changed is you no longer. You guys correct me if I'm wrong. You no longer have to apply per site. It's a bit like pigeons, crows. You can shoot them under a general license. This is my understanding of it. There are different criteria that you have to hit, and if you meet those criteria, then you can shoot the deer at night. And
But that person has to be, from what I gather as well, it can't just be, a trainee underkeeper that's just got his first 2 for 3. He can't be good. It has to be. You have to have tickets.
That's the criteria. So I think there's 4 different sets of criteria, and I don't know them all off the top of my head, but I'm pretty sure that each one involves that you've done a deer management qualification, so your DSC 1 minimum. You've also done a night shooting course. And then I think there's various other iterations of the criteria. So you're right. I don't think it can just be anybody, but I think the difficulty comes is that it could be anybody.
Yeah, and how do you distinguish?
How do you police that?
Yeah, and how do you? Well, you don't police it. It's impossible. I mean, unless that you just happen to get stopped by. It doesn't. It's rural areas. So I think
You're never going to see a lamp these days, are you?
No.
It's all going to be done
exactly the kit
dead
that's
of
out there
night.
now. Exactly,
And is there any legislation on that? Can you shoot these deer in a lamp? Because arguably,
Well, I think they're going off
saying deer in the headlights.
Well,
like
true.
they-
I mean, yeah, but I think that's the whole point. I think it's going off the fact that the equipment that we have now. I mean, because there's also they're doing grants to allow, to help estates with all this. So to buy, the kit's expensive. A new pulsar thermal, what are you about $4,500? So the kit is now. You wouldn't do it with a lamp. I guess
Yeah,
that's
but
the point.
I don't know if I agree, because if I think that if you said to me, right, you're all going to get a third of Montreal Estate, you're going to use, or let's say we halved it. Me and you, Jack, we're going to go out in Montreal. We're going to have a competition, see how many deer we can shoot. So I do it with a lamp, and you do it in pitch darkness.
Yeah.
I would put my house on that I don't own. That's a tied house. Sorry, Rory.
That's exactly why you put your house on it. Smart move, my friend.
I would put my house that I'm going to shoot considerably more deer than you with a lamp. Because when you put a lamp in a deer eyes, they freeze. You can, I've seen it multiple times. You're out for a fox and you shoot one, and then all the deer that were stood there, you have a look at them, see what's what. They freeze. Whereas when you're in the dark, they can sense you. That's their normal place. There's nothing out of the ordinary other than you. Whereas a lamp, it's so obvious, and it's like shining a torch in your eyes. You're like, and you can see it disorientates them a bit. I think at night you're going to see a lot more lamps whipping around. Really think that. I certainly, like, for example, if and when I choose to do that, I would definitely be using a lamp. I think the thermal will come into it more, and I know it sounds a little odd, in the daytime, because I think their feeding habits are going to change so much. I think there's going to be a wave of night shooting.
Oh, massively.
Yeah.
But the other thing is, will they just stay in the woods?
Yeah.
I mean, that's they do change. They change their habits. I mean, we've had
make them proper nocturnal, don't you?
Oh God, yeah, exactly. And I mean, they're not stupid, or they'll just be constantly on the move. They're transit animal. Fallow. I mean, we're talking a lot about fallow here because that's what we've got down here.
Yeah.
Obviously, I don't know personally. I don't have the experience on the other species of deer in the UK. So whether they act differently, roe are definitely. Well, from the stalking that I've done around here, they're a lot more. So they'll sit there and they're a lot more inquisitive. They'll look at, whereas a fallow will just go.
Yeah.
And roe will stand there and look. And whether Chinese and I know muntjac are a lot more fidgety, and but obviously there's no close season for them. But
The Chinese definitely don't need shot at night. They're like,
please
hello.
shoot, I'm over here. Shoot.
Come a little closer, make it easy for yourself.
But
I would have said the row you would have had more success by shooting with a lamp, because you're often getting ones and twos, aren't you? A buck by itself for a doe and followers or whatever. Whereas a fallow, do you not think that they would get wary to it? A bit like they get wary to
yes,
everything.
I do.
If you started to go,
they'd get lamp shy. However, I think that first wave, you would do so much damage.
Because this is a 10-year plan. I mean, this isn't they've opened it forever. This is a 10-year plan to a bit like the Badger Car. The idea here is, I guess, to have a big smash at this, and and I do agree with it. There's the charities like the Country Food Trust, which are doing amazing things, where it's pushing it into schools and prisons, and with the homeless. It's really has helped a lot. Venison is a fantastic meat. It's high. It's low in fat, high in iron. It's exactly what it should be, and that's where this game actually across the board, even the birds as well. But venison. It's a brilliant meat, but it's again coming down to from a game dealer's perspective. It's how it's producing this stuff cheap. Doing it cheap is fine, but actually you can't mechanise it. It's all knife work. It's there's a fair bit of work involved in getting that animal to your plate.
But how are you and all the other game dealers? We've got Ben Rigby from a Rigby Game coming on as a country character. Is it the end of this week? I think. I can't wait for that. I'm definitely going to that one because I want to hear what he's got to say.
So for example, game dealer does it.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
I'll take notes.
None of these Mickey Mouse.
None of these cowboys.
Yeah, that's right. So, but you take X amount of deer at the moment, right? Let's just say the legislation's in. It's that time of year. I'm going to go out now with the boys at night, and we've got a system. Thomas is going to drive me. I'm going to stand on the back with a spotter. Yeah. And Tommy's going to be driving around the quad in the trailer. Yeah. We're going to put 30 deer in one night in that chiller, no problem.
I agree. Well,
how are you and how is the industry going to cope with it? We can't get rid of a lot of the venison we've got at the moment. However, like I listened to Johnny Stevenson the other day on from Wild Pursuits on the channel, and he's talking about all this deer that's coming in from New Zealand. Like we've got and please, step in here at any point because I might be saying this really simply, but we've got a deer problem, but we're buying deer in farmed deer from New Zealand. Help me out here.
Well, it's an interesting point, isn't it? I mean, it's it goes down the same as the livestock side of things with lamb and things like that. But I've never understood that. When I've seen venison in Waitrose and things like that, or wherever, any supermarket actually. Not that I don't shop in Waitrose. But
yes, you Christ!
I saw you the other day.
You are definitely not a little man, are you, Hugo?
It's at M&S actually.
What I have realised, Aldi nappies for any new fathers out there. Aldi nappies, absolute peach. Unbelievable.
We're going to see him on the Is it Pampers?
Unbelievable.
Yeah, Pampers advert next week.
Yeah, actually, cheap as
you
chips.
don't have a Rab gilet and go to Aldi. You do not.
I was there on the way here.
And you don't own an Oast.
On the way
Is
here.
it an Oast?
Oh yeah, in the Oast. Oh yeah.
Yeah, that's my age.
Anyway, but no.
Enough of
this chat.
Hugo from Pound Stretcher.
Things for my. I'm a small scale. I'm a very. I'm a one-man band game dealer. I do it because I came out doing it because on the farm we did the fruit through the summer and it kept me busy through the winter. So I do it, which is why I work brilliantly with Montreal. So it works very well. But you've got game dealers. You've obviously got Rigby, who's the big guy in the UK, really taking the end. I think they've expanded a lot, and they've got capacity. But as you say, fine, we go out and shoot 30. But if every single estate was whacking 30 deer at a time, yes, of course. The other thing is obviously supply and demand. Price will plummet from a point of view. Basically, the carcass would almost be worthless, I assume, because if everyone's doing it. But then this is something that's happened in the past. Is that there's a lot of effort involved in shooting a fallow, because you say we go out in the truck, you couldn't get out, you disappear at the moment. You disappear if you went. I shot a deer the other day in the daytime. Tommy came to get her. He just dropped off the track, stuck, and you cannot move at the moment. So the point is that the logistics of actually doing this is actually quite difficult because you can do it, but actually everyone's not going to be going to do it. And also the other thing is a lot of the recreational stalkers. They will do it, and it's been the case in the past. Oh, the deer prices dropped right down, so I'm not going to shoot deer. It's too much work.
Exactly. I was going to say the other thing. We had you both came. We had a cull day the other day at Montreal, and we shot 22 in the day. We had a little break at lunch. 22. Myself and Fred, one of the farm lads, were in the chiller all day. And Tommy and Thomas were sort of back and forward to each sort of seat or wherever anyone was, bringing them back. 22 deer between two of us. That's gralloch, head, legs, and then obviously it doesn't stop there. You've got to then get rid of that gralloch. We use a lot of it for fox bait, but anyway, that's by the by. So 22 deer in a day, like that, I was so done. Like me and Fred were both absolutely exhausted. So what my point is I think a lot of people are going to go, way trigger happy, let's go and shoot,
they'll only do it once. When you got 10 deer
That's
on the
what
deck,
I'm
and you got to gralloch them, extract them, and it's pissing with rain, the sun's setting, or it's the middle of the night, when there's a new
exactly one. So you shoot your last deer at 10 o'clock, you've shot 5. It's a very daunting feeling to look round into the buck of a truck and see 5 fallow having, and a lot of these people aren't going to have the kit that we've got because they're doing it recreationally. We're doing big numbers. We've got good processing systems and good winches, or we should have. So I think there'll be a huge boom that will just completely fall off. I really do.
People who are stalking already know this. At the end of the day, we're not sitting here kind of telling anyone who stalks anything new here.
No.
I mean, stalkers know that if it's you shoot a deer on last light, a big buck on last light, you've then got to gralloch it and extract it because it's too wet to get your truck down. Yeah, it's done. These people know that, and this is kind of my point. So I think it just needs careful how you attack it. And I think a big one exactly that is basically making sure people who have got land that needs are managing it properly. I think on the continent, don't they, with boar and stuff, that if the estate says, okay, you've come in to stalk my deer or take my boar, you need to shoot 100. If you don't hit that 100, then you start getting fined. I think I may be wrong there, but I think that's how. So I think that might be a way of doing it. Is that so fine? We've been given our cull target by the state this year, and if we don't hit that, that means that they are going to have crop damage, and we've come up with this number that we need to shoot to prevent crop damage. I mean, when I went over the other day and saw the stock manager, he said, "Oh, please, we've got 40 deer out on the silage field. They're eating it, they're laying in it. It's just so it's causing a lot of problems for them." So I think that's another way. You've got to be kind of held responsible, because it's very easy to say, "Oh, I'll shoot 200 deer this year." We'll go and shoot 200. It's a lot harder to actually do this than. So I think it's not just the change. It's actually the stalkers and the stalking community sort of getting behind one another and helping one another, and sort of going, okay, so if it's somebody who say, oh great, I've got 2,000 acres, but actually I'm getting a bit older, or I haven't quite got the time, or whatever it might be to do it all. There are plenty of young guys out there who are desperate to get into this. So bring them on as apprenticeships.
And that comes back to the people being open to going out with someone and letting someone else come on their land and actually stop opening the book a little bit, because it is for someone who's moved down here, and luckily we got to know each other, and I'm now helping you with the deer in Montreal. But if I didn't know you guys, it's so hard for someone else to come and try and get stalking. People, I've done it. When I lived in the Cotswolds, I went and knocked on doors, and luckily I got a yes, but I got a few no's.
But you are a stranger asking, "Can I come and do the farm on your land?"
Can
so
I come
I
and shoot
understand
some
that
deer?
as well, isn't it? It's difficult.
Nobody, you don't know that person when you're knocking on a door whether they want them shot or not.
Well, and this is the thing for me, like a really. And it is a really sensitive subject for me, because it does piss me off that farm or landowners or estate owners that have shoots or whatever, that they say to their keepers, "Oh, just get some help. Bob down the road. Saw Bob the other day. He said he'd come and shoot some fallow for you, Lance. Yeah, brilliant. But Bob's had a rifle for 16 years and fired it twice. But Bob has
That's
not
a good
got
strike
a
rate.
Yeah, absolutely.
He's not got a Scooby-Doo.
Yeah. But also, he might be able to hit the thing. Yeah. But then what does he do?
Yeah, exactly. And where does he hit the thing?
Yeah.
Like, God forbid I shot a deer that wasn't in the head. He's like, there's one in the chiller that's not shot in the head. There's damage. Yeah, but it is right. Hugo forces a quality that should be upheld.
Yeah, but just in your defence here, that's not necessarily you. I think the thing that we get to is the problem. One of the big problems in the UK with deer stalking in general is that it's driven by the end user. Yeah. So the price of venison at the moment is because of the farm, some of the farm deer coming in, and lots of other reasons, is not great.
Yeah.
So you want the maximum use out of one.
That's what I
carcass,
was getting
don't
at,
you?
yeah,
So
yeah.
you ideally want head or neck shot.
Yeah.
Ideally head, so you can use the neck
so
as
you've got
well.
the whole- yeah, absolutely.
But what that means, you get into a perpetual cycle where you've got your Joe Bloggs with a 243 who's been stalking for 2 years, and someone's going to him and say, yeah, you can come stalking, but you've got to shoot it in the head.
Yeah.
And he's thinking, oh,
but then, of
shit.
course, there's the danger. Then, of course, it comes into everything else of the wounding of deer and things
Yeah.
like that. So, and I totally understand.
And knowing how to deal with that.
Yeah,
None of
yeah.
us can sit here. Like, I've been in my career in a couple of big pickles, like where I've made an error, or the bullets, there's an error in
Things go wrong.
in the
Things go wrong.
and it's then in that moment your responsibility
to deal with that.
Yeah, and
It's horrendous. I mean,
and
it's a horrendous
the
position to be in.
only thing that for me that teaches that is time and experience.
And
Yeah.
You can't
doing
buy
it.
it.
Yeah.
No course is teaching you that.
No.
Because like I've got one in my head that sticks out like a sore thumb, and I won't go into details because I really don't like talking about it. But it was a horrendous 4 or 5 hours trying to pick up a wounded deer, and that's sort of what. There's been very few, thousands of
This
fallow.
does also happen when you're shooting, when people chest shooting.
Yeah.
They skim the brisket.
Yeah.
They go low and they take the leg off. So it's
Yeah.
not just people who are head and neck shooting. And I mean, actually, I find it harder then this is just myself personally, but I actually find it harder to chest shoot a deer than I do to head and neck, because I find that actually aiming at the body, it's almost too much. There's too much surface. And trying to actually trying to pinpoint where I'm going to
It's
go.
the
Whereas
old
with the
thing
head,
of aiming small, miss small, isn't it?
It is a little bit, and I think with a neck shot, it's the where I got when I see a deer, when I'm going to a deer, I sort of bring out the rifle, and interesting, I don't even see the body. It's just I just go, it's head and neck. That's all I look at, and that is my. And if I don't feel the shot's right, I won't take it. And so. But that's just me. I'm not sitting there saying, right, everyone go start blazing away at the head and neck, because that's not. You've got to be confident. Oh, I've been doing this a very long time, and it's what I do as a job.
But this is my point: is that it's like a digger driver. I have a digger ticket. I can't drive a digger.
Yeah.
Like I could probably start it, get about. Like I'm awful. However, there are digger drivers that do it for a living that earn colossal wages because they are really good at it.
Yeah.
Like, and that's what
they
I'm
should be
trying to
waitress
say.
as well.
Yeah, exactly. They definitely do. But that's what
Is
I'm
this
trying
your
to
way of
say.
saying that you're going to go on the construction site?
Yeah, exactly.
I'm going to be a digger driver next.
Digger driver.
But what I'm trying to say is just because you've got a rifle
Yeah.
doesn't mean that you're capable.
No.
And it really
But I think-
grinds my nuts. I know an underkeeper that got given the go ahead to you crack into the deer. Like he wounded in the first day 3, and I'll never forget this. And I know, it's a sensitive subject, but I'm not afraid to talk about it because it's important. He came back. How did you get on? And I can remember the words that were said. He goes, "Yeah, I hit one."
Yeah.
Sorry, what?
Yeah.
Like,
Where is it?
But I think there's
in what
there's a
world
few-
do you hit a deer and go home?
Yeah.
There's a couple of things there, and I think one of the things we need to be careful one of the traps we need to be careful not to fall into is the fact that we start saying about how we need to encourage more people into it, but we can't just say to anybody go out and do it because you've got to have experience, because then it's a bit of a catch-22. How do you get that experience?
Well, I think you've got to go out with somebody.
You've got exactly, and that's what I was going to come
mentoring.
to. We went to Slovenia a couple of years ago, which is incredible if you ever get a chance to go there. But we spoke to a guy who was hunting there, and you have to. I think it's a year. You get in your hunting club, you get allocated somebody, and if they say we're going out on Sunday, get ready for 5 o'clock, you have to be ready for 5 o'clock, and you go out with them. And they teach you for a year, and you're not allowed to go out on your own until they've basically signed you
they
off.
have started doing that a bit here with deer. I mean, that's actually how I got deer in my ticket originally. I actually didn't do the deer
With a
one
mentor.
originally. I went out with a mentor, and that was obviously I had experience with rifles,
Right.
But the way I got the deer on my ticket was exactly that. And I think it was about 6 months. I'd gone out. I did about 8-10 stalks with him, and he then basically wrote to my firearms officer saying, "Yep, I feel that Hugo is safe and capable." And I think that's a good way, because, as I say, the only problem with DSC is, I think, from a theory perspective, it's brilliant. I know you do also have the target shooting part of it, but that's not, as I said earlier on, that's not the same as when you're stalking into an animal and your heart's going
not.
and the wind's going the way. You need to, and that way then you've got someone who's experienced, who isn't shaking and jittery and everything, that behind you, sort of saying, no, okay, this isn't this isn't safe.
Just
stop. Stand back.
a
Either
second.
the shot's not safe. They haven't noticed because they've been so tunnel vision on the deer. They haven't noticed a dog walker or whatever it might be. And so, and that only comes with time. That only comes with time.
I'd be happy because, I know, my comments might have been slightly negative towards new people, inexperienced people, but that really is coming from an estate owner's point of view, where they're expecting these young lads to do it, and I don't think they can, or that it's fair to. However, I'm super happy to
mentor.
Absolutely, like Thomas, my youngest underkeeper. Like it was just 2 at Montreal. Now there's 3. What that doesn't mean is that we've got 3 people out deer stalking all the time, because Thomas isn't going to be at mine or your level for so many years. He will chip in, and if he gets taught the right way, and we all have a responsibility at Montreal to take Thomas out, I think, or anybody out for that matter, because. My little lad Jake, he's one of the safest people
Shout out to Jake's Countryside Adventures. Is that his page?
Yeah, Jake's. I'll check the link at the bottom of the screen. He's one of the safest people I've ever seen with a shotgun. Yeah. And the reason he's that way is because I drummed it.
Well, it's the same as my father did to me.
Yeah.
Same thing, and that's exactly right. And that's what you've got to. But that's the only way you'll learn is over time.
Yeah.
So
if there's anyone out there, I'll put my neck on the line here and say, if there's anyone out there, a young, keen, stalking enthusiast that wants to come out with me, I happily take you out on a stalk, your first stalk, or maybe one of many, and you can come and have a walk with me around Montreal and sit and see how we do it. So drop a message in wherever this goes out, and I'll get back to you.
I think that's a great idea, because I'm an influencer now.
Yeah. We'll get on to that in a minute.
Yeah, right.
Because I'm an influencer now, I've actually had quite a lot of people messaging me saying, love to try it. And it's given me a bit of faith in humanity again, because actually a lot of people do want to try it. A lot of people do want to get into deer stalking. You do get the vegans and the antis as well. And I think this is a separate podcast, but I think we do have a responsibility to engage with them as hard as it might be. But a lot of people want to get into it, but a lot of people don't know how to get into it.
Well, actually, funny, I saw it was in the news yesterday, I think I read about it, where
was it?
No, it wasn't. No, it was a festival, a vegan festival, where they're trying to basically bring in but they're trying to bring in venison. They're trying to basically because they're saying that venison is actually it's because it's not vegan, but because of what it is, actually it's in line with the vegan values, as it were. But it's an interesting point. I don't know how far they went with that. I got bored and I went back onto Trump bombing Iran, but
but where do you get another thing? That's what I wanted to say earlier. Do you know anyone other than Millie that buys venison or anything?
My venison?
No, but do you know anyone that buys venison from a supermarket? Could you name one person that you know, just out of interest? Because I absolutely don't. And how many people?
I think it'd be more London. I think a lot of people. I've sort of like friends point. That they'll go and that's where they'll get. It's more that sort of side.
Do we need? Well, in fact, that's a stupid question. We definitely do. We need to make it more accessible.
Yeah,
definitely. And this is shout out to Field Food and Country. This is why Field Food and Country was made in the first place, because it's. I personally want it to be educational. Yeah. There's people I know within Field Food and Country that had very to little understanding about, lots of concepts of sporting and the countryside that are now completely on board with it. Yeah. And this is the thing, I've just been to South Africa. I had a really bad image.
You kept that one quiet.
It was particularly good. Did I mention the biltongs?
Yeah.
I'm still haven't been to the loo.
You've holidayed well, mate. You've holidayed well.
Just call me John Wayne. So no, I've lost where I was going.
Sorry, I've completely thrown you off.
You've ruined my evening. And possibly everyone else's. What film was that?
Shall we summarise the new legislation? Do you think it's a good thing or not?
For me,
I think it's Lance
Bans.
For me, it's a great thing. I'm going to be able to manage my deer a lot quicker. I mean, time-wise, efficiency-wise, great, absolutely great. If I wasn't a gamekeeper, no, I don't like it really. If I'm honest, I think from a keeper's point of view, we're here to keep the balance, and I think giving us the accessibility to shoot deer at night is tipping the balance too far in our favour.
Hugo?
I guess as a game dealer, from my perspective, personally, being able to kind of go, right, I need 10 deer for this week's orders, I can get out and shoot those very easily at night, brilliant. I think as an overall, then you need to be careful. I think, as we said earlier on, I think there potentially will be a bit of a wave of people shooting these things at night, but actually, I think there's so much more to go with it. I think, yes, from a deer management perspective, we need to control the numbers. I think that allowing night shooting is a good thing as long as it's done carefully. It can be a little bit of a genie out of the bottle. So as long as the other elements of it, you get the training, the right people doing it, there's a need, it's being done in areas, like the southeast where we've got a high density of fallow, fine. I don't think we should be shooting roe at night in the southeast. There aren't the numbers here. So I think it still is a bit of a case-by-case basis, but, it needs to be careful. But it'll be interesting to see if there is an influx of deer into the market once people are allowed to do this, or whether actually, because of the, especially with fallow, whether actually it doesn't help that much. I think there's a lot of others. You've got to make landowners control their deer more effectively and make sure you've got the young stalkers coming through to do it, until you've got the boots on the ground doing it, rather than just allow one bloke to go out with his night vision scope and blaze deer.
Yeah.
You?
I have faith in the sportsman inside most deer stalkers. The little angel on the shoulder rather than the devil. I don't particularly like it because I think it reduces deer to vermin. I mean, a lot of chat amongst stalkers and gamekeepers, they do talk about deer as vermin, and in some areas, are they? Possibly, yes. But, okay, yes.
But you need the beautiful stalk, isn't it?
Exactly.
It's not just about killing that deer. There's so much more about it.
I think, yeah, correct. You've probably listened to a few of my videos there, Hugo. I think
the darker hours of the night.
Exactly. I think what you'll see is people staying out a few more hours after dark.
Yeah.
I think because people will soon realise as well that actually just because you can shoot deer at night, how many people have got 2,000, 3,000 acres to go at? Because you've got 150 acres does not mean that you're going to be shooting 20 deer at night.
Well, I think you'll end up exactly like you say. You're on your high seat, and actually you haven't seen anything. Then the sun's gone down. It's just dark. One may come out. Buff, you'll have that. You'll have your deer. So you've done.
You've got your HIT microscope now, or your other brands are available. But you've got
Knockpicks.
Yeah, exactly.
Knockpicks.
Any
Thanks for the new binos.
But I think you'll have people staying out. But I personally, do I like it? No. Do I think that it's got a place in some places? Yes. I do. But I think people are going to find out that it's probably not as easy as they think.
I agree. Yeah, it might be interesting when you've got 10 deer lying in front of you. How often you go out and do that?
Yeah,
I think
exactly.
It'd be one and only time.
Yeah, exactly.
So the way I think that we should finish or wrap this podcast up is there's two things. Number one, Hugo, where can the average Joe source a deer carcass from? Number one. And two, Jack recently paid an enormous amount of money for a video to go viral.
Actually, it wasn't as expensive as you think.
Oh, okay. But no, on a serious note, and this is the power in Instagram. Jack went from about 3 followers to 3 million overnight. What was it, Jack? Tell the story.
Probably about 1,000 just friends growing up and university and all sorts to.
I was one.
10, yeah. To 10,000, the dizzy heights of 10,000.
But that's a serious amount.
You haven't got a blue tick yet, though, have you?
It's coming.
It's coming. You got to pay for those.
Give me another couple of weeks.
You can buy them, you know.
Yeah.
Someone said once. I don't know. I can't remember. But so, and my point is let's finish this by getting more people to meet. So, for me, Google estates. Pheasant shoots.
Facebook, giving up the game.
That's a great shout.
Giving
back.
up the game
Giving
is
up
brilliant
the game on Facebook.
Yes, people, you're going to have to pay for it, but you can get a whole deer carcass
for
£60.
Yeah.
Yeah,
and then
watch actually, I've also got some fantastic butchery videos, far better than Jack's. Watch mine. No, watch Jack's butchery video on how to break that carcass down.
If you
it's not
didn't
that hard.
shop in Waitrose and you went to Asda, you could also pay for your videos to go viral. But instead, here you are. No,
exactly.
but no. So contact
The Himalayan
your
salt,
local
that's what it is,
gamekeeper. Go to your local game dealer or your local gamekeeper. Ask for a carcass. I promise you, he will help you and give you one. And then watch Jack's video. Go home and have a go.
Yeah, because actually, at the end of the day, also it doesn't matter. If you cut into a few things, it doesn't matter.
No,
it really doesn't. Just have a. It's not that hard. Just don't cut yourself.
Even if, and I can remember doing this for the first time, looking at this deer in front of him. Back then, there was nothing like there is now. You couldn't go onto YouTube, and that makes me sound well old. You can see in my hair, I am well old. But it wasn't accessible to us. It just wasn't. I remember looking at this monk Jack, thinking, right,
was this back when people were still writing on slate?
Yeah. Quill.
Yeah, that's it. And it had been hunted with a
Put
spear.
that candle out.
Yeah.
But I hacked the whole thing up into little chunks and stewed.
I bet it tasted delicious.
Amazing. It just stewed the whole lot.
It doesn't matter, exactly.
Yeah.
So so it is out there. It's ready, available. Get out there, have a go with it, and just eat deer.
Yeah.
Just and treat it like beef.
Yep.
I mean, that's the thing. Just what you do with beef, you can do.
You eat a lot of beef.
I like a bit of beef.
Oh, to be fair,
A decent bit of claret. I mean, venison goes very well with a decent bit of claret.
how much are you spending a bottle? Be honest. Don't lie to us.
So I'll get bogged down in that.
Okay.
But it's not from
Is
Waitrose.
Millie going to watch this?
It's from my man. It's from my man. No. So I think that, just give it a go.
Yeah.
And that, I think if people are eating more venison, it gives you that market, and, it's a self-fulfilling prophecy, really, isn't it?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Great
Amazing.
way to finish.
Brilliant.
So,
Tune in and,
what do
for
they say?
The next instalment.
Subscribe, and Jack,
subscribe,
what do you have to
and,
say
Yeah,
to get?
hit the link at the bottom of the
If you
screen.
enjoyed
Follow
what
us on the
you've heard from
socials.
these three tits, then give us a like, give us a follow, and
See you next
and we'll
week.
see you next week.
Exactly. For more ramblings.
More ramblings.